Ever feel like your brain is just stuck on overdrive?
Mm.
Like it's just going and going and going, like a hamster wheel of thoughts and you just can't get off.
Oh, yeah.
I think we all experience that kind of mental whirlwind sometimes.
Yeah.
And that's where, people say meditation comes in. It's touted as this, amazing tool to calm the chaos. But have you ever wondered, like, what's actually happening in your brain when you meditate?
Yeah.
Like, what is the science behind it all?
That's a fascinating question. And it's one that, kind of bridges ancient wisdom with cutting-edge neuroscience.
Right.
And that's what we're going to unpack today. You've given me all this research.
Yes.
We're going to look at what's the real impact of meditation on the brain.
Okay, so let's unpack it.
Yes.
You have, like I said, research articles. You have some of your own notes here.
Mm-hmm.
What's the mission for this deep dive? What are we hoping to uncover?
Well, I think the goal is to get beyond this vague idea that meditation is just good for you.
Right.
We're going to look at specific brain regions and how they're affected by meditation.
Okay.
One example is the default mode network.
The DMN?
The DMN.
Yeah.
This is a network that's active when our minds are just kind of wandering,
Right.
Lost in those self-referential thoughts, worries, daydreams.
Those like the me center of the brain.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Exactly. It's like the me network.
Yeah. Okay.
And what's fascinating is that studies show that meditation actually deactivates the DMN.
Really?
So it's not about forcefully emptying your mind,
Okay.
but rather shifting into a different mode of being.
So a state of non-doing?
Effortless awareness.
Wait, non-doing?
Yeah.
So I don't have to try to clear my mind?
Right.
That seems very counterintuitive.
It does, doesn't it?
Yeah.
But think of it like this. When you try really hard to relax, you often just end up tensing up even more.
Oh, yeah.
Same principle.
Okay.
So one of the sources you gave me was a study by Judd Brewer.
Okay.
And he used this fMRI technology to look at the brains of experienced meditators. And they actually saw decreased activity in certain areas, particularly those associated with the DMN.
Interesting.
Which challenges this whole idea that meditation is about actively trying to quiet the mind.
Right. So it's more about kind of letting go.
Yeah.
Rather than controlling, which aligns with a lot of what we hear, from ancient tradition.
Right.
Like Zen Buddhism, they talk about don't know mind.
Yeah.
Which is, surrendering to the present moment without judgment.
That's a great connection. It seems these ancient practices were onto something.
Right.
Long before we had the technology to confirm it.
Totally.
But how do we actually go beyond just observing these brain changes?
Right.
How do we connect it to the actual experience of meditation?
Because seeing a brain scan light up is one thing.
Right.
Knowing what that feels like is a whole other level.
Totally.
So how did Brewer and his team do that?
Well, they used this really groundbreaking technique called fMRI neurofeedback. So imagine you're meditating and you're actually seeing your own brain activity in real time. It's like having a window into your own mind.
That's incredible.
It is.
So they could literally see the DMN quieting down as people meditated.
Exactly.
That's so cool.
And what's even more fascinating is they actually identified a specific region within the DMN called the posterior cingulate cortex.
The PCC.
The PCC.
Okay.
Which seems to be a key player in this whole process. When participants reported experiencing effortless doing during meditation, their PCC activity decreased significantly.
Effortless doing, that sounds almost paradoxical.
I know, it's hard to...
What does that even mean?
Right.
Like, I'm picturing someone trying really hard to do nothing.
I know. It is a tricky concept to grasp. But the participants described it as a state of letting go.
Okay.
Simply being present with their experience without judgment or striving.
Okay.
And their attention just flowed naturally, effortlessly, almost like a river finding its own course. Yeah. Okay.
It's a state of awareness that's not forced or contrived.
That makes sense. It kind of reminds me of that Taoist principle of Wu Wei.
Yes.
Which is often translated as non-action or effortless effort. It seems like these different traditions, despite their cultural and historical differences, are all kind of pointing to the similar understanding of how the mind works.
Absolutely. And now with neuroscience, we're actually starting to uncover the biological mechanisms that underlie these ancient practices.
That's really cool.
It is. But effortless doing isn't the only brain change associated with meditation.
Right, because we talked about the DMN being just one part of the puzzle.
Exactly.
So what other areas of the brain are affected by meditation?
Well, in addition to quieting the DMN,
medication
also strengthens certain brain regions.
Okay.
Like the insula.
The insula.
This area plays a crucial role in something called interoception, which is basically our ability to sense our internal bodily states.
Huh.
It's also linked to empathy and emotional awareness. So by strengthening the insula, meditation could actually make us more empathetic.
Exactly. There was one study, they found that meditators were actually better able to accurately perceive the emotions of others based on subtle facial expressions.
Wow.
So it really highlights the power of meditation to enhance our social and emotional intelligence.
That's incredible.
But it's not just the insula that benefits. Another key player is the prefrontal cortex.
Isn't that the area responsible for things like decision-making, planning, focus?
Exactly.
All the important stuff.
All the good stuff.
Yeah.
And studies have shown that regular meditation can increase the volume and activity of the prefrontal cortex.
So we're essentially training our brain to be more focused, more resilient, more emotionally intelligent.
Yeah.
It's like a mental workout.
It is.
But instead of lifting weights, we're strengthening our neural pathways.
That's a great analogy. And there's even research suggesting that meditation may offer some protection against age-related cognitive decline.
Wait, so you're saying meditation could help keep our brains sharp as we age?
It's still an area of active research,
Okay.
but the early findings are very promising.
Interesting.
It seems that meditation's impact goes far beyond just feeling calmer in the moment. You know, it's literally shaping our brains in ways that could benefit us for years to come.
This is all incredibly fascinating, but I have to admit, part of me is still a little skeptical.
Sure.
I mean, is it really possible to, train your brain to achieve this state of effortless doing, especially for someone like me who's, fairly new to meditation?
Right.
And whose mind is, shall we say, a bit more active than maybe the average person?
That's a valid question, and it's something that Brewer explored further in his research using that real-time neurofeedback technology we talked about.
Okay.
So imagine you can actually see your brain activity changing in response to your efforts as you meditate.
So you're telling me that by, watching my brain on a screen, I could actually learn to meditate more effectively?
Yeah.
That sounds almost too good to be true.
I know it might sound futuristic, but the results are promising.
Okay.
They observed one novice meditator in one study,
Okay.
and their PCC activity suddenly flipped, and it remained consistently deactivated for an entire meditation session.
Wow.
This was after they had been really struggling at the beginning.
That's a pretty dramatic shift.
It is.
I mean, did they suddenly just become a meditation master?
Well, not exactly. What happened was they simply shifted their focus from thinking about their breath to actually feeling the physical sensations of breathing.
So they bypassed all the mental chatter
Yes.
by grounding themselves in the senses.
Exactly.
So they kind of stumbled upon that key to effortless doing without even realizing it.
Precisely.
Interesting.
And this is just one example of how neurofeedback could potentially revolutionize mindfulness training.
Yeah.
It gives a level of feedback and guidance that was never possible before.
It's incredible. This is incredibly exciting. I mean, imagine the possibilities if we can use technology to help people actually experience these benefits.
It's amazing. It really is a glimpse into a future where ancient wisdom and modern technology are working together to enhance our well-being.
I like that.
But beyond the potential of neurofeedback, there's another important piece to this puzzle, which is the wider benefits of meditation on the brain beyond just quieting the DMN and achieving effortless doing.
Right. So there's more. Okay, I'm all ears. It sounds like there's a lot more to uncover about how meditation really shapes our minds.
There is. So remember we talked about meditation strengthening certain areas of the brain?
Yes.
Well, those changes have far-reaching effects.
Okay.
On our emotional well-being, our relationships, even our sense of self.
Okay. I'm officially hooked. Tell me more.
Let's start with the insula and how its connection to interoception plays a vital role in developing compassion. As we become more attuned to our own internal states, we actually develop a greater capacity to understand and resonate with the experiences of others.
It's like gaining a deeper understanding of our own inner world allows us to connect more authentically with the inner worlds of those around us.
Yeah.
That makes a lot of sense.
And this increased empathy, fueled by a stronger insula, directly links to another benefit of meditation: compassion.
Compassion, it's such a powerful force in the world. But how exactly does meditation cultivate compassion? I mean, is it just about feeling more empathetic, or is there something deeper happening?
It goes beyond simply feeling empathy.
Okay.
Meditation helps us move from understanding another person's suffering to genuinely wishing for their well-being and happiness.
So it cultivates a deep sense of care and concern for others.
Yes.
So it's about moving from a cognitive understanding of suffering to an emotional response that motivates us to act.
Precisely. And this active component of compassion is crucial.
Okay.
It's not just about feeling sorry for someone. It's about wanting to alleviate their suffering.
That really resonates with what I've read about, Buddhist teachings on compassion. It's not just a passive emotion, but an active force that compels us to act for the benefit of others.
Exactly. And what's fascinating is that neuroscience is now providing evidence to support these ancient insights.
Wow.
Studies have shown that regular meditation practice actually increases activity in brain regions associated with empathy, compassion, and pro-social behavior.
There's a real neurological basis for the transformative power of compassion cultivated through meditation.
There is.
That's incredible. But we've been talking a lot about the insula and compassion.
Right.
What about the prefrontal cortex? We talked about how meditation strengthens this area as well.
Yes.
How does that play into all of this?
Well, the prefrontal cortex is like the wise executive function of the brain,
Okay.
helping us regulate emotions, make sound decisions, and navigate challenging situations with more skill and awareness.
So by strengthening the prefrontal cortex, meditation could help us break free from those impulsive reactions and habitual patterns that often lead to suffering.
That's a great way to put it. And this enhanced prefrontal cortex activity is closely linked to another key benefit of meditation: equanimity.
Okay, equanimity, I've heard that word thrown around a lot in mindfulness circles.
Right.
But I'm not sure I fully grasp it.
Yeah.
What does equanimity actually mean in the context of meditation?
Equanimity is often described as a state of mental calmness and composure,
Okay.
even in the face of difficult or challenging circumstances.
Mm-hmm.
It's not about suppressing emotions,
Okay.
but rather about developing a more balanced and spacious relationship with them.
So it's about learning to kind of ride the waves of life's ups and downs without getting swept away by them.
Exactly. It's about developing an inner stability that allows us to meet life's challenges with more grace and resilience.
That sounds incredibly beneficial, especially in today's world, which can feel so chaotic and overwhelming at times. But how does this inner stability actually develop? What's happening in the brain that allows us to cultivate equanimity through meditation?
Well, remember we talked about the prefrontal cortex acting like a buffer,
Yeah.
modulating the intensity of emotional signals coming from the amygdala.
Right, the amygdala being that fight or flight alarm center in the brain.
Exactly. Well, as we practice meditation, the prefrontal cortex strengthens, allowing it to more effectively regulate those intense emotional responses.
So instead of being hijacked by our emotions, we develop the capacity to observe them with more clarity and detachment,
Yes.
choosing how to respond rather than simply reacting.
That's the essence of equanimity.
Wow.
It's not about becoming emotionless,
Right.
but rather about cultivating a more balanced and spacious relationship with our emotions.
This reminds me of something I read about long-term meditators.
Mm-hmm.
You know, those who have logged like tens of thousands of hours of practice.
Right.
They seem to have this extraordinary capacity for equanimity,
Yeah.
even in the face of intense physical or emotional discomfort.
Yes. The research on these experienced practitioners is fascinating.
Yeah.
One study even found that these meditators, when subjected to painful stimuli, they registered the physical sensations,
Okay.
but they didn't experience the same level of emotional distress or reactivity.
Wow. So it's like they had developed this inner thermostat that could regulate their emotional responses.
Yeah.
Amazing. But is that level of equanimity even attainable for someone who's not, a lifelong meditator?
Well, it's important to remember that meditation is a practice, a
Right.
journey, not a destination.
Yeah.
The benefits unfold gradually over time,
Okay.
and everyone's experience is unique.
So it's not about striving for some perfect state of equanimity, but rather about cultivating it day by day,
Yeah.
moment by moment, through consistent practice.
Exactly.
Yeah.
And even small incremental changes can have a profound impact on our well-being.
This is all incredibly inspiring. It's like we have this untapped potential within us to transform our minds and cultivate these qualities of compassion, equanimity, and resilience.
You do.
And it's not just about individual transformation.
Right.
These qualities ripple outwards,
They do.
impacting our relationships in the world around us.
Exactly.
I can see how a more compassionate and equanimous person would naturally create a more positive and harmonious environment.
And when we cultivate these inner qualities, we bring them into every interaction and situation we encounter.
That makes me think about the potential applications of meditation beyond, just personal well-being. I mean, could meditation actually help address some of the broader challenges facing society today?
That's a fascinating question, and one that's gaining increasing attention.
Yeah.
There's growing recognition of the potential for meditation to address issues like mental health, conflict resolution, even climate change.
Wow, that's quite a range. How could meditation possibly impact something as complex as climate change?
Yeah.
Well, consider this. Many of the challenges we face today stem from our disconnect from ourselves, each other, and the natural world.
So you're saying that by cultivating greater self-awareness, compassion, and equanimity through meditation, we could potentially shift our perspectives and behaviors in ways that benefit the planet.
Exactly. It's about recognizing our interconnectedness and acting from a place of wisdom and care rather than fear and greed.
That makes a lot of sense.
Yep.
It's like meditation could be a key to unlocking a more sustainable and compassionate future.
It's certainly a possibility worth exploring further.
Definitely.
But before we get too carried away with these grand visions of societal transformation,
Right.
let's zoom back in on the individual level.
Right, because it all starts with each of us cultivating these qualities within ourselves.
And one of the most fascinating aspects of meditation is its potential to actually enhance creativity.
Oh, interesting.
We've talked about how meditation strengthens the prefrontal cortex and helps us break free from habitual patterns.
Right.
Well, this cognitive flexibility can also unlock new ways of thinking and problem solving.
So meditation isn't just about calming the mind.
Right.
It's also about expanding it, opening up to new possibilities and ideas.
Exactly. Studies have shown that meditation can actually boost divergent thinking, which is the ability to generate multiple solutions to a problem.
That's incredible. It's like meditation clears away the mental clutter, creating space for fresh insights and innovative solutions to emerge.
And this enhanced creativity isn't limited to, artistic pursuits.
Right.
It can benefit us in all areas of life,
Okay.
from our work to our relationships to our personal growth.
This makes me wonder about the potential implications for education. Imagine incorporating meditation into the curriculum.
It's an intriguing idea. Cultivating mindfulness and creativity in young minds could have profound benefits for their learning and development.
And it's not just about academic performance.
Right.
It's about equipping them with the tools to navigate the complexities of life with more resilience, compassion, and creativity.
Absolutely. And these benefits extend beyond the classroom.
Yeah.
Imagine the impact of integrating meditation into the workplace.
A more mindful and creative workforce.
Yeah.
That sounds like a win-win for everyone.
It could lead to greater productivity, innovation, and job satisfaction, as well as a more compassionate and collaborative work environment.
This is all incredibly exciting. But before we wrap up this deep dive into the world of meditation and neuroscience, I have to ask, are there any potential downsides or risks we should be aware of?
That's an important question, and it's crucial to acknowledge that meditation, like any powerful tool, can have its challenges.
Okay, so what are some things we should be mindful of?
While meditation is generally safe for most people,
Okay.
some individuals may experience unwanted side effects, such as anxiety, disorientation, or even a sense of depersonalization.
That sounds concerning.
Yeah.
Why would those kinds of experiences occur?
It's not fully understood,
Okay.
but it's thought that for some people, particularly those with pre-existing mental health conditions, the intense self-awareness cultivated through meditation can be destabilizing.
So it's important to approach meditation with a sense of caution and self-awareness.
Absolutely. It's also crucial to remember that meditation is not a quick fix
Right.
or a one-size-fits-all solution.
Yeah.
It's an ongoing practice that requires patience, dedication, and a willingness to be present with whatever arises,
Okay.
both the pleasant and the unpleasant.
And if someone is struggling or experiencing difficulties, it's always wise to seek guidance from an experienced teacher.
Exactly. Meditation is a profound practice with the potential to transform our lives in remarkable ways, but it's essential to approach it with respect, awareness, and a healthy dose of discernment.
I appreciate that reminder.
Of course.
So as we wrap up this part of our discussion, I'm curious. We've been talking about meditation's impact on different brain regions and how those changes translate into benefits like compassion, equanimity, and creativity.
Right.
But if meditation can so profoundly alter our brains, what does that say about our sense of self?
That's a profound question.
Yeah.
And one that gets to the heart of what meditation is all about.
Okay.
It challenges us to reconsider our fundamental understanding of who we are.
That sounds intriguing. I'm ready to dive into that.
Let's explore this further.
Okay.
Remember how we talked about the default mode network as the me center of the brain?
Yes.
Well, if meditation can quiet this network, what does that mean for our sense of self?
Does it mean our sense of self diminishes? That seems kind of scary.
It's not about erasing the self,
Yes.
but rather about shifting our perspective on what the self actually is.
Okay.
Neuroscience suggests that the self, as we typically experience it, isn't this fixed entity, but rather a collection of fleeting brain patterns.
So it's like our sense of self is more of a process than a thing.
Exactly. It's a constantly shifting mosaic of thoughts, feelings, sensations, and memories that create this illusion of a unified self. But through meditation, we start to see through this illusion.
One of the articles you shared used a really interesting analogy.
Yeah.
It said representations of the self in the brain are like representations of a unicorn.
Okay.
Real representations of an unreal thing.
It's a powerful image, isn't it?
It is.
We cling to this idea of a solid, enduring self.
Right.
But ultimately, it's a construct, a story we tell ourselves. And meditation helps us deconstruct that story.
So instead of being defined by this fixed idea of me, we become more aware of the ever-changing flow of experience.
Exactly. It's a shift from a self-centered perspective to a more open and spacious awareness that recognizes the interconnectedness of all things.
That makes me think of those beautiful lines from the Buddhist Heart Sutra.
Yeah.
Form is emptiness. Emptiness is form.
Yes.
It's about seeing through the illusion of separateness and recognizing that fundamental unity of all existence.
That's a beautiful connection.
Yeah.
And this understanding can have profound implications for how we live our lives, If we let go of this notion of a solid, separate self, what possibilities open up?
It is kind of mind-boggling, but also exciting.
It is.
If our sense of self isn't so rigid, maybe we'd be less attached to our own opinions and beliefs.
Right.
More open to different perspectives.
And perhaps more willing to connect with others from a place of genuine empathy and compassion.
Yeah, I can see how that would transform our relationships. Instead of seeing others as separate from ourselves, we'd experience a deeper sense of connection and belonging.
It's a shift from an us versus them mentality to a recognition of our shared humanity.
And if we kind of extend that sense of interconnectedness beyond the human realm, it could even change how we relate to the natural world.
Exactly. We might be more inclined to act as stewards of the environment, recognizing that our well-being is inextricably linked to the well-being of the planet.
Wow, this is really expanding my perspective.
It is.
It seems like meditation isn't just about personal well-being. It has the potential to create these positive ripples that extend outwards into the world.
That's the beauty of this practice.
Yeah.
It's a journey of self-discovery that can lead to a deeper understanding of ourselves, our place in the world, and our interconnectedness with all things.
It's a lot to ponder.
It is.
But in a good way.
It is.
I feel like this deep dive has opened up a whole new dimension of understanding about meditation.
Yeah.
It's not just about relaxation or stress reduction.
Right.
It's about transforming our minds and ultimately our way of being in the world.
And remember, it's a journey, not a destination.
Right.
The benefits unfold gradually over time as we continue to cultivate these qualities of mindfulness, compassion, and equanimity.
Thank you so much for guiding me through this exploration.
Of course.
It's been truly enlightening.
It's been my pleasure.
Yeah.
And for those listening, may your own journey of meditation be filled with insight, joy, and a deepening sense of connection.